speaker is Vignesh N. He hails from Uttar Pradesh. And Uttar Pradesh is a state that we hear little about because we are so concentrated in Calcutta and Madras. So we wonder what's happening there. Now it's in the heart of the cow belt, if I may say so. And he's in terrain that is the focus in the country now. And there's talk about the Allahabad society, residential society being taken over. And so many things happening there. And he is the present MLA of Uttar Pradesh. And he's been there for 1.5 years, I think. So we are very keen to hear about the community in Uttar Pradesh. Please welcome Denson.
Respected and distinguished members of the Anglo-Indian community from India and from all corners of the globe. It is indeed by default that I became an Anglo-Indian MLA of Uttar Pradesh. I had not given in any formal application, but the state government, after analyzing all the applications before it, was not satisfied, and they asked the RSS and BJP youth wings to search for a fresh face from our state with a proven track record. I need to mention this because sadly, sometimes leadership endorses names without doing background checks and do not take the government for fools. The government does its job, goes into the history, the records, criminal or otherwise, and chooses the best in their wisdom and circumstances. I am basically a professor in a college. With that brief introduction, I need to go on to tell you about the community in our state. I look forward. We all know about the goodness and the greatness of the community, be it in the service where the defense forces are concerned, our authors, the wonderful nurses, our educational institutions. But apart from that, from here, the way ahead is what is important. I need to mention the Anglo-Indian community in Uttar Pradesh in particular are mainly concentrated in the erstwhile cities where we had large populations, where the railways were prominent. In the present situation, the largest community of Anglo-Indians in Uttar Pradesh consists of about 150 families with close to about, unofficially, 2,000 members. I mention 2,000 because we have so many Anglo-Indians who are not registered members of any association. I represent those Anglo-Indians, whether they are registered with an association or associations, or not registered with any association because of their poverty or the situation in which they are in. Personally, it is a time for breaking barriers and building bridges. And it is very disheartening when I see when a group says, if you are loyal to me, you must not be in communication with this particular group. Unfortunately, I'm not the run-of-the-mill kind. I speak to everyone, communicate, and I always say we must be united or work towards unity. Work for the youth, work for our way ahead. And the only way ahead, as earlier speakers mentioned, was empowerment with education. For more than 32 years, as a college professor, I have worked for the Anglo-Indian community in higher education, officially, unofficially, and sometimes in ways which I cannot mention from the podium. But I want to mention the importance of us working together and educating our youth. It is absolutely essential that all MLAs, in fact, I wanted to address each one of you as torchbearers of our community. We know how many of us are registered. and to see about 92 people in this hall leaves a question mark. Probably, as some see, this is a typical Anglo-Indian situation. But if you are present here, you are a torch bearer with the responsibility to take that light, hold that torch up high, and probably light several other torches so we can spread light wherever we go. In Uttar Pradesh, we have vibrant communities in Agra. And I want to ask Mr. Trevor Rosemere, are you present here, sir? Yes, Trevor Rosemere, please may I ask you to stand up? Trevor Rosemere and his family have led the community from the front, beyond the call of duty. This is the type of effort we require. We have communities in Allahabad, but for the first time when I went to Prayagraj, as it is now called, I went to a famous Bandhwa club. It is part of the trust which was given to us in the 18th century. And I was sad to hear that of those 30 families, one lady came up to me and said, it is the first time in 9 years that we are all coming under one roof because of you. It's not anything which I have done. I see the hand of God in my presence and coming in the present government. We have to work fearlessly. If you truly know God, you should not know fear. You must be honest in what you do. And like the earlier speaker mentioned, if you work for the upliftment of the community, extended community, and the others around you, you will be loved, respected, and supported. And presently, no matter what anyone might say about the situation in Uttar Pradesh, my experience has always been good. The Chief Minister has told me every Tuesday and Friday I may, without prior appointment, if he is physically present in the city capital, I could come directly to his residence and meet him. He has kept his promise on 2 occasions. The community from here needs to work in several aspects. One very important, which would apply to the whole of India, is we cannot afford to be complacent. We must pay our taxes on time. We must renew the leases of our institution and lands. We must pay our bills. And we must not sign documents which we do not understand. I have with me proof of leadership, well respected, big names mentioned from the podium, who have made such blunders when they have signed legal documents. I cannot, my heart bleeds when I see these documents. For these people were educated, they were national leaders, but probably they never looked ahead, or they signed documents without understanding the implication of what they were signing. So we must be wise, we must be gentle, we must be firm, and on several issues, we cannot compromise. Okay? Thank you so much. And these are basically some of the main issues before us in Uttar Pradesh. There are other things which we have mentioned in the Anglo-Indians and their future in the book of Charles Dice. If I have a minute left, I will read that to you. But however, once again, I would like to emphasize that the Anglo-Indian community is a community which has contributed far beyond its numbers in the proportion to the development of the state of Uttar Pradesh, beyond, before and after independence. Despite having several challenges, the road for the community has been tough. It has struggled from within and from outside. Unfortunately, many of the community members are reluctant to call themselves Anglo-Indians. It is indeed a shame. for several families have over a period of time have valid or otherwise certain grievances where they have left the community and have decided to join the mainstream and not even acknowledge their Anglo-Indian ancestors. Our historical city of Lucknow continues to have a large number of Anglo-Indian families. Several Anglo-Indian families have left for Canada, United Kingdom, Australia and New Zealand after 1947, but the floating population with about 150 Anglo-Indian families in Lucknow continues to exist and give their best, so as the same populations in Allahabad, in Agra, in Gorakhpur and in Jhansi, but where we do not have an association as yet. Thank you so much.
Yanzu spoke for exactly 10 minutes. Our next topic relates to the Anglo-Indian Association of Southern India. This association was started in 1879, 3 years after the All India Anglo-Indian Association, by David White, the famous Whitefield, so named after him. And the association still exists, though at a smaller level. And it is headed by Dr. Jeffrey Francis here in Madras. He's not able to make it today, but the secretary of the association, Mark Karen, is here. And so let's give Mark Karen a big hand and invite him forward to speak on behalf of the association.
It's very intimidating to stand here among such great Anglo-Indian stalwarts like Auntie Betty, Mr. Oscar Nigley, and the people on the dais. I feel too small to stand here and represent Dr. Jeffrey Francis. But I consider it also a blessing. So if I tongue twist, please forgive me because I'm really shaking here. It's like making your debut against Dennis Lilly. It's very difficult. However, Dr. Francis has expressed his sincere apologies for not being here this morning because he has an urgent family business which he wants to take care of, and he has sent his apologies. To introduce myself, my name is Mark Donald Karen. I'm the principal of St. George's Anglo-Indian Higher Secondary School. Also the secretary of the Anglo-Indian Association Southern India. As we all know that Dr. Francis, he has so many hats. He's a very highly decorated person. He's a director of the AMJN College, the former principal of AMJN College, the secretary of the Home Missionary Society of India, correspondent of 3 Anglo-Indian schools. He's 68 years old and carries so much on his shoulders. It's very difficult. But he's still active, he's still energetic, and he's still doing a lot of work for the Anglo-Indian community. The thing is, he's not just confined to his own Southern India Anglo-Indian Association. No. He's got so much of contacts, being the correspondent of many educational institutions, religious institutions. He's in touch with many Anglo-Indian families who are not members of the Anglo-Indian Association Southern India, and he has helped them financially in the field. He has supported them in their education, and also the old people. He spends about 2 lakhs per annum giving pension to the old people. We are very fortunate in the Southern India branch to have our own building. We have a 3-4 floor building, which is our own building, and we run our programs from there. But there are other welfare programs which we do. I will quickly read it out. The paper which Mr. Francis gave me, 15 minutes will not be enough. I'll quickly read it out. Educational assistance program for about 20,000 rupees per child to develop his education. Christmas programs for the poor and the downtrodden. Christmas raffles. And also we have a family talent program where we expose children and other family members, the youth, to come and take part in sports, in musical programs so that we can identify the talent. And as we speak today, there are two girls from St. George's Anglo-Indian Higher Secondary School representing the Tamil Nadu cricket team. We are playing a match against Telangana. As we speak now, the match is going on. There are a lot of welfare relief which we do, and we have about 3,000 members in the association. We are from the land of the great Himalayas, from the land of the Taj Mahal, from the land of breathtaking beauty and charm, the land of plenty, the land of poverty, the land of the rickshawalas, the land of the chaiwalas. It is from this great land that this cosmopolitan community has emerged. It is us, the Anglo-Indian community. And ladies and gentlemen, I hear a lot of people saying and talking about unity. And that is what I want to express personally. It is not here, but personally I want to say that there are a lot of people who carry the torch, but they don't have light. There are a lot of people who have their bows, but they don't have their arrows. The more the torchbearers with the light, the more brightness, the more arrows in the bows, the more stronger the army, the more stronger our community. I can see these torchbearers, these archers, getting together in occasions like this, meeting, greeting, fellowship. That's it. You don't work together. You need to sit down and work together as a community, because in India, I don't know, I haven't been to Australia or any other foreign country except Bangkok. There is so much to do in our country. There is so much of poverty, there's so much of illiteracy, there's so much of unemployment in our community. And I would love these torchbearers, these archers, to get together on the table, find a window in the year, get together and work together, unify and eradicate that poverty, that illiteracy, that unemployment, and lift the community higher. And whichever country we are, it doesn't matter. Let the Anglo-Indian light shine. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. The best part of the speech was you saved us 4 minutes' time. Thank you. But you did highlight torch and light and torchbearers. And from that point of view, there are lots of people who have been doing quiet, dignified work who are not here on stage today. And in the realm of social welfare, helping the elderly, etc. We've all heard of the Friend in Need Society in Madras and Bangalore, the East India Trust in Calcutta, etc. There are also people, we have the Wine Charitable Trust, and we have the Teacup Ministries, Smile Cares, Justin and Sharon. So lots of people who are really doing grassroots work, okay, who haven't come to the fore, but we remember them today, although we are not here on the stage. Our next speaker in the same line is Colin Fitzgerald, who will speak on the Calcutta Anglo-Indian Social Service Society. Colin is somewhere here. Colin, please.
Good morning, everybody. I do have a bad throat, but I'm still going to scream. Ladies and gentlemen, a train goes by And at the end of the train, you have this guard with his two lights, one green and one red. To all those grassroots organizations working in the field, looking after those who need them most, here is the green light. Because I represent any organization working on the grassroots level for Anglo-Indians in need. And I know among you are many, many people who support that cause. If it wasn't for you, many people in India would have a difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, as it's already been said, you are the torchbearers. We are the ones that work on the ground. At Caius, it's an organization that's been around for 40 years. We've done a holistic work across the community. We've looked after people who are aged. You've always been faced with the fish and the fishing example. But let me tell you, if you don't provide the fish today, the children who you're planning to teach how to fish will never see tomorrow. Because most of them live with their grandparents or their parents who do not have the means to make a square meal of today. It's a situation where if all of us put our efforts together, we can make a difference. The sad part of it is we find millions of reasons why we cannot put our efforts together. Millions of them. And that is basically the first step if we want to achieve a brighter tomorrow. Our children will study in schools. Many of them don't even acknowledge they're being Anglo-Indian. Many of them are absolutely disillusioned because our leaders do not have the patience to listen to them. They want the time where they can spend with their leaders listening to them. We've lost the art of listening. Instead, we allow to say things from our heart. Ladies and gentlemen, as an Anglo-Indian community here together from across the world, I think it's about time we nudged our leaders to listen. Our young people have a story to tell, and their story is not the same story that you and I know. It's a very different story. I am very grateful to Mr. Harry MacLure and Anglo-Indian for giving me this opportunity to speak. As I said, we are the ones that after the train goes by, we signal that the next train can pass. But yes, after giving and spending time with 200 of the aged, giving them pensions and rations and medical assistance, assisting 200 children with their school fees, books, uniforms, etc., making sure that every child goes to school. It's not sufficient to expect a child to go to school by giving him just his fees. He goes to school without tiffin. He doesn't eat a meal at home, he's had no breakfast, so he goes to sleep in school. And who's taking the responsibility for that? You have to provide a child everything he needs to ensure that he stays in school. We cannot just provide them one aspect of it and expect him to go to school. He won't. The parents don't have money to send the child to school. How would that child ever reach? At the end of the day, there's no point picking up his report card and saying, child, you didn't go to school for 16 days in the month. He didn't have the money to go there. I know it's not our responsibility, but there's a lot we can do. And the faster we sit down together and discuss this, the quicker our response will be, and the more effective our response will be. My grateful gratitude to all our donors, the Canadian Social Service for Anglo-Indians, CTR, the South London Association, the Australian Benevolent Fund, All of these make up that little pot we have. And let me tell you, that pot spreads and spreads. Blair talks about 10% administrative costs. We are an organization that don't even have the 10% administrative costs also, because we cannot have the luxury of having administrative charges, because every rupee is demanded for by 3 people. We have to decide which person we give that rupee to. And that's a sad, sad situation to be in. As an Anglo-Indian community, taking pride in our heritage, taking pride in our language, taking pride in our existence, we need to put our hands in our pockets and do it your way. I'm not saying we're the only ones doing things. I'm saying we all need to do things. And the quicker we do it, the faster our response is. If we want to see the future of tomorrow brighter, it's the time is now. We cannot wait any longer. With folded hands to my leaders, please find the time to spend with the youth. Please find the time to sit down and talk to each other. There's no point using these podiums to talk. You have to do it on the ground. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Colin. That was very meaningful. Our next speaker, Mr. Gordon Maher, needs no introduction, but we would like him to demystify for us this thing called the Federation of Anglo-Indian Associations.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Now I'm going to cut out all the formalities because I don't want Richard whispering in my ear at the 8-minute mark. And we spoke about Torchbearers, and I must say that over the last 3 or 4 days we've been really taxed in terms of our energy and time. And so my torch is dimming a bit. So it's not as bright as some of the people that are coming before me. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking on behalf of the International Federation, but I also would like to talk about Anglo-Indians in Australia, because this forum, we've heard some of the political side of our challenge here in this country, and Colin has just mentioned even the charitable need of our people, and Blair did a wonderful job in describing the work that's done overseas to help these people. But I need to talk about what we have achieved in overseas countries. So it's almost a kata mita symposium, this one. You're getting the sweet and the sour. So the International Federation was formed by 3 organizations, and those organizations felt that there was a need to establish a group that would firstly be involved with issues of international importance which directly impact upon our community. The second aim was to establish guidelines for the selection of the venues for future international reunions like these ones. And the third was to select the venue and association responsible for the next reunion. So we set the rules, we set the guidelines, and then we vote on who runs the next reunion. And we'll be doing that at our AGM on Saturday. So today the Federation consists of 9 associations, and the latest association to join our group is the association from Canberra. So we thank you, Joe, for your nomination and for us accepting your nomination. Now, with respect to the first goal, we find that we have not been involved with a lot of international issues. And that's because there are many good Anglo-Indian organizations worldwide, from Canada to the UK to Australia. And also in India itself, there are representatives of our community that are doing a good job. Now, we know there's some conflicts, we know there's some issues that still need to be resolved, but they're all dedicated people that are dedicated to the cause of our community. So as an international federation, we have stayed a little bit aloof from the politics of our people on the subcontinent. But something of international significance, I suppose you could say, is that Anglo-Indian Day was created at one of these reunions. And today, Anglo-Indian Day is celebrated on the 2nd of August throughout the world. And we run 2 functions a year to celebrate, to bookend that particular date, to celebrate the creation of Anglo-Indians. Okay, so that's the reason why we selected 2nd of August. So, reunions have been run over the last 20 years. And as we experience ourselves, it's not just about fun and games. And we must applaud you, because after 4 days, of hectic travel and late nights, you're still here to listen to some of the challenges that face our community. And we applaud you for that, because I struggled myself to get up this morning and be here. And I'm thinking, if I wasn't a speaker, would I be here? Yes, I would. But thank you for being here also. Now, these gatherings, amongst other things, are a unique way of showcasing our community to the outside world. So in India, people know about Anglo-Indians, and we have much achievement here as Anglo-Indians, which you stand out because of your Christianity and because of your Western names. In Western countries, that's not the case. So we are blended in with the normal population of Indians. And they don't realize that we are culturally, linguistically, and religiously different from the other Indians. So quite often when we run reunions, we invite key people to our gatherings, and they're quite surprised to hear that people like Cliff Richard and Engelbert Humperdinck and other famous people are Anglo-Indians. And so we raise the profile of our community and express our individuality. So when we are trying to get these government ministers to understand that they should be accepting Anglo-Indians into a Western country if they want to come, that they are different, that they will contribute to the fabric of Australian society much more keenly and easily than other ethnic groups. So in Australia, Anglo-Indians have succeeded tremendously. Recently we had Sam Kerr, who was nominated for the FIFA Soccer Award of the Year. That's a worldwide award. She was nominated for that, and people thought she should have won it. We've had people like Samantha Jay, who won the Australian Idol recently. And we had a mother and daughter, the Ferdinands, who actually runners-up in one of the major competitions there. And we also have a gentleman called Christopher Payne, I think Bert's sitting here, and it's his cousin, who developed the tsunami early warning system. Yeah, it's Australia. So he's done that. Les Morgan, a painter of international repute, is also from Australia. And we have Basil Sellers, of course, Joe would know Basil Sellers, a famous Anglo-Indian in Australia, multi-millionaire, #1 ticket holder for the Sydney Swans. And these are some samplings of the success of Anglo-Indians in Australia. And the list goes on and on. And we develop a book every year for our Anglo-Indian Day, which shows Anglo-Indians that may be lost to the community, but we have captured their heritage and placed them on record so that we could be proud of the people that we are. Now, reunions are also a launching pad for major projects and welfare schemes, and you've heard Blair speak about his particular CTR and how in the work that they do. This gives them the forum to actually present this information and to launch other projects. 2 minutes he's given me. Didn't other people speak less? Okay, so I'm going to move on very fast. Okay, so in Australia, I'm going to go to Australia. In Australia, our kids marry into other communities. They don't marry into Indian, Anglo-Indian families. So you find that they adopt the cultures of those countries. And so it's very hard for us to try and get those people to be Anglo-Indians. Because really, once they marry into an Italian or a Dutch family, they adopt the dominant culture of that country. And Australia is a is a mixing pot of different cultures, and so our kids are very cosmopolitan. And so the future of our people in overseas countries is quite limited. And so when we talk about welfare projects, I say to you, you have an opportunity now, while we are still alive, because our connection is still here. But once we are gone, our children in the West don't have that connection. No matter what we tell them in terms of our history and how proud we are of whom we are, that connection will be lost. And I'll finish off very quickly with this little story. An anthropologist, and I think Robert will be very happy with this one, proposed a game to kids in Africa. And he put a basket of fruit at the end, and he said, the ones that go the fastest can take all the fruit. And he said, go. And the kids linked hands and ran together and sat down and ate all the fruit together. Yes. And the anthropologist said, why did you do that? You could have actually had, the biggest kid could have had all the fruit. And the kid said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? And so the word Ubuntu in the kosher culture means I am because we are. And we as a community need to adopt that philosophy. Now I know there are many well-intentioned people here and wonderful people who are doing good work both outside India and within India, but I think we need to put some action into the words that we are speaking about today and in other forums that we actually attend. So let's not waste the opportunity while it is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Can we have the chairs placed here, please?